Okay, good day. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna work on the radiator. So I've got the old one sitting up here in place. I went on a search. I basically need a core that is 16 inches wide and 20, we'll call it 22 and a half inches tall. And like I said in the earlier video, it was much harder than I thought it was going to be. I did find something that I thought would potentially work, and I'm going to show you. So we're going to get this out of the way. This. It was 16 inches wide. However, the entirety was 26 inches tall. And I thought maybe when I ordered it that would be okay because the cap sits a little higher than the rest of the reservoir. But I was wrong. As you can see, it's going to sit far too high. The hood, even though it does scoop, I'm thinking the side panels would probably come in right around here, and that's just no good. So unfortunately, this is not going to work. So we'll put it on the shelf. I've got other projects. I'm sure at some point I will use it. The other downfall to this was there was no fill cap. If I went with this, I was going to have to get an inline fill cap, and that was going to throw off all of this plumbing for the upper radiator connection. So unfortunately, we're going to scrap that. Or with that one being set aside, I had to go back and start looking again. So it just so happened I was working on editing my last video, and I noticed that I had gotten a comment on the video that I posted about what the next steps were and the radiator. And the comment reads, from user QX9NL7WJ5B, just today Farmall Boy listed on eBay the exact radiator you mentioned needing. Hope this is helpful. Well, I saw that 40-ish minutes after the comment got posted and got very excited. Now, I've been watching eBay very closely, probably every other day, just to see if there's any new parts that I may potentially need for this project or future projects. But I'm not checking it every day. So I jumped on eBay, and sure enough, Farmall Boy 74 had just posted 48 minutes earlier a Minneapolis Moline 335 tractor radiator and fan shroud. And as I read on, in the full description, it says, here we have a radiator from a Minneapolis Moline 335 tractor, was full of coolant, no leaks, has fan shroud, see all pictures, thanks for looking. Needless to say, I bought it on the spot. And it actually showed up here within 3 days. And so, I'm going to be unboxing it to see exactly what we've got. Buckets they packed well. So I'm already not super impressed. This thing has been sitting in that box for a long time. Probably on a back shelf somewhere because all these packing peanuts are melted. Yeah, this definitely wasn't sitting with coolant in it, as the description said. Now, hold most of my thoughts until after we find out whether or not this thing actually holds water. It looks good. It looks much better than the unit that I had, so even if this does have something minor wrong with it, I have a much better chance of getting this thing record than getting that other radiator record. But I don't know how well you can see, but we got some kind of something growing in there. So I'm gonna have to get all that cleaned out, get the rest of this cleaned up, and then I'll have to find a tank and see exactly what we're dealing with before I put it on the tractor. So that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, you take that risk when you deal on eBay, and I know that, and I'm fully ready to find out that it's not everything it was cracked up to be, but it's better than what I had. So one day at a time. That smells. Okay, here we are the next day. I took a brush to it this morning and got the front of it cleaned off, but I also built this quick little runaround so that I could get this thing filled up and see if we have any leaks. And you can see it didn't quite seal tight right here, but that's fine. Did flush it out before I did that, and as of right now it's staying up where it should. So we're gonna watch it here and see if it goes down at all. Okay, so we're at about 6 hours later, and as you can see, that water level really hasn't dropped at all. So I'm pretty confident that we've got ourselves a good radiator. Okay, so next steps, we'll take all this apart. We've got some damage to the overflow line, so I'm going to have to cut that off and then probably braze the one from the other tank on, because that one is still good. So we'll do that. I've got to chase these holes out to make sure that when I go to thread bolts in there that they're gonna take. Plus looks like we're completely missing one here, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. I'm gonna clean up the bolts that hold it down to the frame and then probably put some paint on it. But yeah, just a huge thank you to the viewer that turned me on to this and made sure that I didn't miss it on eBay, and just very grateful that it's a good radiator and I'm going to be able to use it. And yeah, so stick with me. We'll work on getting this cleaned up, and then we'll get it on the tractor. Okay, So as you can see, radiator looks a little different than it did the last time. Got all the packing peanuts cleaned off. I went through and sanded it down, got a lot of the rust off, and then I just threw it under a light coat of primer. Not the same primer that I used on the tractor. I actually have this industrial enamel, heavy duty. It is Moline Primer Red. It comes from AG Tractor Supply. I've got this, and I've got a couple cans of Prairie Gold, and it works really nice for when you're doing just smaller parts and pieces, so you don't have to get the actual paint gun out. So like we talked about, there are a couple things on here that needed to be worked on. The first thing was the overflow tube. So the original looked like this. It was all flattened out and plugged. It is just a copper tube, but it was not usable. So I cut it off, and I thought I was going to be able to use the overflow tube from the other radiator. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that I had that in the back of it. So after cutting it off and taking a look at it, realizing that that wasn't going to work, I opted to just go with a plastic tube for now. And so that addressed that. One of the other main things I had to do was for the drain plug, there was just a bung in the bottom of this, and it had to get replaced with an actual drain so that I could empty it. So I had to drill that out because it was stuck and it was rounded off and in bad shape. So drilled it out, was able to save the threads, threaded this drain in, and we should be good to go there. And then the other thing that I did is I went through and chased all the nuts and bolts and all of the threaded holes so that I can very easily thread with my fingers. It just saves so much time when you're actually putting things together. Aside from that, we've got the radiator cap from the other radiator that we will use, at least for now. I don't know if I'm going to get a new one or not. I typically do, but we'll see. Yeah, for the most part, this is ready to go back on the tractor. There are a couple of things that have to happen either while that happens or before that happens. Over here, these are the sheet metal bands that go around the cross, and then these are the brackets that go from that radiator where I had to chase those bolt holes up to the cross, and that kind of holds the radiator in place, and it's also where the light brackets get bolted on and some of the sheet metal. So the problem is that these bands go under the brackets. So metal cross goes here, bands go here, and then brackets go on the outside of it. These are off of a 445. These are the ones off the 335. And you can see that I'd have to do quite a bit of straightening to get those usable again. So I've got a couple of options. The first one is to go ahead and put the brackets on without the bands underneath, and then go back through and put the bands underneath later, or put the time in now, straighten out the bands, and then put it all together now. I'm not sure which I'm going to do. If you have any thoughts on that, I guess leave it in the comments. The other thing that we have underneath here is this is the bracket that helps hold the grill in place behind the cross, which that part can be done later. It's good that I have these. So yeah, I'm kind of debating whether I want to put the time in now or I want to put the time in later to doing that. And then when we actually mount it on the tractor, I bought an alternator, so I need to get that put on, and I need to get the belt put on, get tension on it so that when we have the radiator on, the fan will actually run and pull air through the radiator as it should. So that's the next step. We're going to get the radiator on here. I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with those bands. I'm going to get this alternator on, get that whole thing set up, and then hopefully the next video we can do some tuning and we can actually take it for a ride, which would be outstanding. But that pretty much wraps this one. Again, thank you very much for watching and supporting. If you liked it, give me a like or subscribe and take your foot off the clutch. Thanks, everybody.